Is anyone on the phone? We're going to have two people call in.
Yeah, there's quite a few people.
Marty Dunbar's on the phone.
Okay, great. Thanks, Marty. And is Monica on?
Yes, we heard Monica.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yes.
Ready?
Yeah.
So, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. I'd like to thank you for being here in person and on the phone. I'd like to start by welcoming the directors. With us today are Michael Abbott, Alicia Barton, Christine Chung, Michael Frame, Franklin Hecht, Brad Johnson, Mengling Chow, Kristen Proud, Kenneth Tompkins, who is with us by video. I would like to also recognize the following attendees. Todd Larson, who's the Senior Vice Chancellor and Provost of the State University of New York. He's the designee of the Chancellor. Emily Conchala, who's representing the Research Foundation of the State University of New York. And Michael Frame, who's also here representing the SUNY Polytechnical Foundation. Also with us by phone are Monica Conley from the Public Resources Financial Group and Martin Dunbar from KPMG. At this time, I'd like to point out that if any of the attendees have a conflict of interest, then with respect to any topic that we discuss today, please let us know. And also, please make appropriate disclosure on record and then recuse yourself from any discussion or vote related to the item that you're conflicted with. So we have minutes from the December 18, 2019 meetings of FRMC and FSMC and New York Creates. With respect to the FRMC and FSMC minutes, we will ask the directors serving on those boards back in December 2019 to act on the December minutes and we'll ask the new directors to abstain. So with respect to the FRMC minutes of December 18, 2019, we do not have a quorum of directors currently serving. We're also serving on the FRMC board. So we will instead ask for a motion by one of the directors of the former FRMC board to accept rather than approve the FRMC minutes of December 18, 2019.
I'll make the motion.
And any second?
Second.
We have a second. With that, does anyone have any corrections or comments on the minutes? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Great, thank you. And then with respect to the FSMC board of December 18, 2019, we also do not have a quorum of directors currently serving who are also serving on the FSMC board. So we'll ask for a motion by a director of the former FSMC board to accept rather than approve the FSMC minutes of December 18, 2019.
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion or comments or suggestions for changes? If not, they're approved. Thank you. Actually, I should ask for a vote. So all in favor of accepting?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Aye.
Okay, the FRMC Finance Committee reports will be presented by Kristen Proud. Oh, sorry, I missed New York Creates. With respect to the minutes of the December 18, 2019 meeting of New York Creates, all of the directors may act on these minutes. So I would like to ask for a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting of December 18, 2019.
So moved.
And second. Thank you. Any discussion or corrections? If not, a vote to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Okay, so moving to the FRMC Finance Committee report. I would like now to call on Kristen Proud, who's the chair of the Finance Committee, for the Finance Committee report.
Thank you. The first item from the Finance Committee at this meeting is with regard to FRMC Resolution Number 164. It's authorization for a conduit issuer related to our upcoming refinancing. At this time, I would ask for a motion to consider and adopt Resolution Number 164, authorizing the engagement of a conduit bond issuer for corporate debt refinancing.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Franklin. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Alicia. So by way of background, Fuller Road Management Corporation, known as FRMC, has approximately $350 million in outstanding debt at this time, consisting of 6 borrowings made up of bonds, bank loans, and a bank line of credit, the proceeds of which were used to finance the construction of specific buildings on the Fuller Road campus. This is known as the debt. A majority of the debt will either mature or have mandatory tender dates in early May of this year. FRMC, subsequent to completing a procurement process and obtaining Finance Committee approval, selected a proposal for refinancing its debt from Goldman Sachs. Subject to the approval by the board of all definitive documents required for the implementation of this refinancing. Goldman Sachs has recommended that FRMC's debt be refinanced in the municipal market, which will require the use of a conduit bond issuer. FRMC requested its financial advisor, Public Resources Advisory Group, or PRAG, to identify and analyze potential conduit bond issuers for this purpose. PRAG recommended the selection of the New York Transportation Development Corporation, or TDC, which is an affiliate of the New York Job Development Authority, or JDA, based upon process and cost. TDC's issuance fee structure, as well as its engagement and process requirements, are set forth in the materials that we provided to all of you. An application fee, and pre-financing agreement are required prior to when FRMC anticipates seeking board approval of the definitive closing documents necessary to complete this refinancing. FRMC now seeks to engage TDC as the conduit bond issuer on the refinancing of its debt, which will engage bond counsel, a rating agency, and a trustee in order to proceed with the structuring and drafting of definitive agreements necessary to obtain FRMC board approval to close the refinancing. The Finance Committee approved a resolution authorizing the engagement of TDC as the conduit bond issuer for its debt refinancing, and authorizing the execution and delivery of a TDC application fee, and pre-financing agreement with TDC, and we now recommend that the board approve these same actions. This time I would pause and ask if there are any questions from the board members or any comments that anyone would like to make.
Yes, this is Brad Johnson. By way of background, when I first came on the board and served on the Finance Committee as chair, our focus was to rationalize, restructure, refinance Fuller Road's outstanding debt, which compared to what we can get today is relatively expensive. So this effort has taken a couple of years, but it will result in substantial savings to the corporation's annual debt service. The exact amount of savings we won't know until we get pricing from the market. But this is it's an important development, and it's very important for the fiscal stability of the corporation. So I just wanted to thank the staff for the hard work they put into this over the last year or so. They've done great work, and the management team has really kept us on schedule.
Absolutely. Thank you for your comments. And also our advisors at PRAG have done some great work, too, to move us this far toward the refinancing.
Sure.
Alicia?
A question. In terms of selection of TDC as the conduit issuer, and noting I'm very new to the organization and some of the history, is that a pre-existing relationship, or will be the first time working with TDC?
I believe that would be the first time. Monica, is that correct?
This is correct.
And so and it sounds like there was a selection process that compared, amongst other things, fees and the administrative arrangement and all of those items.
Correct. That's correct also. Any other comments or any further questions from the board members? Then at this time, the action requested is approval of resolution number 164, authorizing the engagement of TDC as the conduit bond issuer for its debt refinancing, and authorizing the execution and delivery of an application fee, and pre-financing agreement with TDC, and authorizing the president, the chief financial officer, and the treasurer, each of them without the other, on behalf of the corporation, to execute, acknowledge, and deliver any and all documents as such officer may deem necessary or appropriate in order to effectuate the purposes and intents of the foregoing resolution, and to take such actions as are necessary and appropriate to effectuate the purposes and intents of the foregoing resolution. So at this time, I would ask all in favor of adopting resolution number 164, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, okay, resolution number 164 is approved.
Thank you, Kristen.
That brings us to the next item from the Finance Committee. It's an FRMC lease amendment with Neutral Physics Corporation. Is there a motion to consider and approve a lease amendment with Neutral Physics Corporation?
Motion.
Thank you, Franklin. A second? Thank you. For background purposes, Neutral Physics Corporation is a current tenant here. It currently leases 619 square feet on the first floor of NanoFab East. It had a 2-year lease, which expired last month, and the company is now seeking to exercise an option in that lease, which would be to extend the term for a 12-month period. The tenant will pay $40.58 per square foot, including utilities plus parking. This represents a 3% increase from last year. The proposed lease amendment represents a small fraction of the total building, and therefore it was determined that an appraisal of the fair market value of the asset was not practical. Staff has determined that the lease meets fair market value based on other existing leases in the building. The Finance Committee met and approved a resolution authorizing approval of an amendment to the lease with Neutral Physics Corporation under the terms described above, authorizing the president and the treasurer, each of them without the other, to take such actions, including without limitation, to approve, sign, acknowledge, and deliver the amendment in such form as either of them may deem appropriate as are necessary to effectuate this resolution, and recommend that the board approve the same action at this time. Are there any questions or comments about the lease extension? Hearing none, the requested action is the adoption of a resolution authorizing the approval of an amendment to the lease with Neutral Physics Corporation under the terms described above, and authorizing the president and the treasurer, each of them without the other, to take such actions, including without limitation, to approve, sign, acknowledge, and deliver the amendment in such form as either of them may deem appropriate as are necessary to effectuate the resolution. So at this time, I would ask all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Thank you. The lease amendment is approved.
Thank you, Kristen. The second item we have is from the Audit Committee, the Audit Committee report. So I'd like to call on Michael Abbott, Chair of the Audit Committee, for the Audit Committee report.
Thank you, Chair. The Audit Committee met earlier this week and discussed resolution number 165, authorization for engagement of KPMG services. And at this point, I'd like to ask for a motion to consider and adopt resolution number 165, authorizing the engagement of KPMG for services related to corporate debt refinancing.
So moved.
Thank you. By way of background, as noted earlier in this meeting, Fuller Road Management Corporation selected a proposal for its debt refinancing from Goldman Sachs. The proposal from Goldman Sachs contemplates the issuance of taxable municipal bonds on or before May 1st, 2020. In connection with the marketing of such bonds, a preliminary offering statement and a final offering statement will need to be released to potential investors, containing, among other things, FRMC's financial information, Release of the preliminary offering statements and final offering statements require that in order for FRMC's financial information to be included, an independent auditor must provide consent letters and agreed upon procedure letters for the 6 months ending December 31st, 2019, with accompanying procedures from January 1, 2020 through the date of the preliminary offering statement, as well as bring down the agreed upon procedure letter from the date of the preliminary offering statement through the date of the operating statement. In the event an audit opinion on FRMC's June 30th, 2019 financial statements cannot be issued prior to the execution of the bond purchase agreement by and between FRMC and Goldman Sachs, and agreed upon procedures letter for the 12 months ended June 30th, 2019 need to be issued in lieu thereof. So I think all that's saying is we've got to cover the whole period up to including the final issuance of the offering statements. In September 2019, the Board of Directors approved the engagement of KPMG to audit FRMC's financial statements for the year ending June 30th, 2019. KPMG's work on such audit is currently underway. Given the efficiencies resulting from utilizing the same firm performing the June 30th, 2019 audit, it's in the best interest of FRMC to engage KPMG for these additional audit services. The Audit Committee approved a resolution authorizing the engagement of its current independent auditors, KPMG, for additional independent audit services as described here that are necessary or desirable for the refinancing of FRMC's debt, and recommends that the Board approve the same action. At this point, I'll pause for any discussion or questions on that proposal.
What's the cost going to be?
Cost would not to exceed $80,000, so it depends upon the amount of work that they actually do. Any other questions? Okay. The action requesting then is to approve resolution number 165, authorizing the engagement of KPMG for additional independent audit services that are necessary or desirable for the refinancing of the corporation's debt in an amount not to exceed $80,000 in fee, and authorize the President, the Chief Financial Officer, and Treasurer, each of them without the other, on behalf of the corporation, to execute, acknowledge, and deliver any and all documents as such officer may deem necessary or appropriate in order to effectuate the purpose and intent of the foregoing resolution, and to take such actions as are necessary and appropriate to effectuate the purposes and intent of the foregoing resolution. At this point, I'd like to ask for a vote. All in favor of the resolution, please note by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it, the motion is carried.
Thank you, Michael. At this point, I'd like to ask if anyone has any new business to be considered. If not, then I'd like to provide an opportunity for public comment. Anyone want to make any comments from the public? Hearing none, we'd like to talk about scheduling the next meeting that will be scheduled and posted on the website. And with that, if there's no other